The world remains on an edge, with US President Donald Trump threatening the resumption of the Iran war. However, remember, he's now facing a fierce pushback from two world powers. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin joined hands in Beijing to call out all acts of unilateral bullying and strengthen their comprehensive partnership. Now, these two visuals that you see on your screen depict a story. Just 5 days ago, a different person sat across the chair with Xi Jinping. Just like Putin, he received a grand welcome as well outside Beijing's Great Hall of People with a 21-gun salute and military band playing the national anthems of the two countries. However, the difference in outcomes has been stark. While no agreement was signed between Trump and Xi, China and Russia signed 40 agreements, signaling the significance of their bilateral ties. In fact, in a strong indirect signal to Donald Trump, Chinese President Xi Jinping told his Russian counterpart that the world faces the risk of regressing to the law of the jungle. He also warned of unilateral and hegemonic countercurrents running rampant in the world. Listen in.
Unilateralism and hegemony pose grave dangers, and the world faces the risk of regressing to the law of the jungle. As permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and Russia must resolutely fulfill our responsibilities as major powers, uphold the authority of the United Nations and international fairness and justice, and oppose all acts of unilateral bullying and attempts to reverse the course of history.
Now, as part of their joint declaration on the emergence of a multipolar world, China and Russia stressed that the US-Israeli strikes on Iran seriously undermine stability in West Asia. They also opposed Trump's Golden Dome project for increasing the risk of combat in space and transforming it into an arena of armed confrontation. According to them, this proposed missile interceptor system posed a threat to global strategic stability. And this is not all. Remember, both countries also called out the US for its irresponsible policy in not renewing the START treaty. During Putin's bilateral visit, both sides agreed to enter their 25-year friendship treaty and signed a slew of agreements covering areas like trade, technology, media, and global governance. In fact, they also highlighted how bilateral trade has climbed by 20% from January till April, exceeding $200 billion for the third consecutive year. While Trump did not get any assurance from Xi as far as his stance on Hormuz is concerned, Iran featured high in the talks with Putin. Xi told his Russian counterpart that West Asia was at a critical juncture and called for a comprehensive ceasefire. Xi Jinping said that resuming hostilities is inadvisable. On his part, meanwhile, Vladimir Putin assured China of uninterrupted supplies of oil, gas, and coal. He also agreed to promote China's Belt and Road Initiative to form a greater Eurasian partnership. Listen in.
Today's talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping were highly productive and useful. A substantial package of documents was signed, including joint statements by the two heads of state outlining our shared positions and areas of cooperation across virtually all key sectors. Together with President Xi, we set new ambitious goals for advancing Russian-Chinese cooperation.
Now, the bonhomie between Putin and Xi was clearly on display throughout this visit. For instance, they toured an exhibition of large-frame photographs dedicated to their past meetings. Remember that they have met more than 40 times, signifying their close ties. Both leaders also held informal talks over tea before Putin's visit drew to a close. Now, Donald Trump had a rather interesting take on Putin's China visit. While remaining silent on the outcomes of their respective visits, the American president sought to highlight how his China visit was much more grand in scale. Take a listen.
What do you make of President Xi meeting with Putin this week?
Well, he told me he was going to. I think it's good. I get along with both of them, but I think it's good. I don't know if the ceremony is quite as brilliant as mine. I watched. I think we topped them.
Well, the visit also raised some key questions. While Donald Trump claims that Xi Jinping backed him on not sending arms to Iran, will this assurance hold, given the fragility of the ceasefire that we've seen in the past few weeks? Also, With Putin repeatedly offering to take in Iran's enriched uranium, can Russia prove to be the icebreaker in the West Asia impasse? With China and Russia reinforcing their ties at this critical juncture, it is of course apparent that Donald Trump is on a back foot.